Let's keep this simple. What's going on, y'all? Hey, man, I got a lot of friends, and I've been wanting to make this for a while because I got relatives and friends who pretty much are terrified of the Baitcaster. Not terrified, but they pretty much avoid it at all costs because it's got the reputation of being very difficult and all the backlashing, and it's almost like people think you got to be an expert, fisherman to be able to use these things, which isn't true. There are steps that you can do, and it's just basic settings that you can do to make it pretty much useful and for just your everyday beginner bait or fisherman, and they really are useful. I mean, I love my open face reels, but a Baitcaster, man, as far as like your casting distance and your accuracy and just the strength of it is it's a really good tool when it comes to bass fishing. And it's kind of a shame that a lot of guys won't even try it because they're like, oh man, I ain't that good, I don't want to touch those things. But so I'm gonna give it the basics. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna make this easy as possible. A lot of people, when they say go watch some videos or get on your forums and start asking, and people will tell you and they'll show you how to do it, and a lot of it's kind of confusing. You're like, does that work? I've watched the videos, I've asked the questions, I've put them all to test. So here we go. I'm going to show you what it is you need to do. Simple as possible. First, the basics is you have on using on Baitcasters, you have your tension rod. When they say tension rod, that's it right there. This tension rod loosens and tightens and applies pressure on your spool. So it's almost like an emergency brake or something. Just kind of puts pressure on the sides of it to slow it down. You tighten it all the way down, boom, it's locked. It's not going anywhere. You loosen it, it's free to move and free to roam. So that's pretty much it, man. You're just applying pressure, slows it down. So it's not overspooling. As soon as you hit the button, it just boom, boom, backlash. So that's all that does. Your brakes right there. Your brakes are usually here or on the bottom, but usually your brakes are on the other side of your tension spool, and the brakes are simple. You usually have two types of brakes. You have magnetic, which uses little magnets or some form of little magnets to go through there and use. Just like if you're holding, magnets next to other metal, it's going to grab a hold of it. So it just uses that magnetic field to kind of grab it and kind of slightly apply pressure to it to keep the spool from overrunning. Or you have your more traditional, which is your centrifugal, which usually uses some kind of like little bars or little features that when you throw it, they push out from the pressure of it going, or the force of it spinning around, just like a centrifugal force. It's going to spread out. And so when it spreads out, those little barbs or little bars or whatever they may use will just press along the sides and kind of act like applied drag to kind of slow it down. So that's it. It's just this one applies pretty much drag or brakes to kind of help slow the spool down, usually into first of your cast, so that you can when you first kind of kick it out and you throw it real hard, it'll be like, it'll slow yourself down and come back down. That's all that's doing. It's kind of giving you a little burst to keep you from backlashing. And then this one kind of slows so that you can adjust and control the spool speed. That's it. So if you want it, you can hit that button, tighten it so you hit the button, it doesn't drop. So, or when you're casting, it's not running so fast that as soon as it hits the water, if you're not used to thumbing, then it won't backlash and overrun. So, thumbing. What is thumbing? Thumbing is you press the button, you hold the spool, right? When right before it's hitting the ground or as it's going, you slightly apply pressure with your thumb to slow it down. That's kind of an old school way, those guys that I think this is my opinion, before the features and everything were where they are, now, you had to really, control it with your thumb to keep it from backlash. And I think that's what kind of gave it a bad reputation. Because guys are like, man, I can't do that. Which I'll be honest with you, I'm not a good thumber. I'm straight up, the fawns all the time. So, but you can use your features if you know what you got to control it, to get it to why you want it. So even if you forget to thumb it, or, at least when I'll throw it, I won't thumb it. I'll usually use the features, and then I'll use my thumb to stop it where I want it, right when it hits the water, like boom. That way it doesn't overrun, or if I think, oh man, I cast it way too high, boom, I just emergency brakes with the thumb. So that's what it is. So the settings, from my experience and watching other people, there's like two stages of it, okay? And you'll see this a lot. When you hit this button, if this is really loose, your line's just going to fall. This thing's just going to, if I were to let this go with a lure on there, it would just go and backlash. It would just dump fast. And all backlash is your spool overrunning the line that's coming out. So it's spinning faster than the line's coming out. So it's going, and then you get loops that pop up, and then those loops tangle around each other. And it's like like if you got an extension cord and you got all the extension cord loops and then you pull on it and then all of a sudden all the loops are tied in. You got to pull the loops out of the loops. That's all that's going on. So the first thing to do is you want to, because a lot of people don't get used to that, hitting that button and stopping it with your thumb because you're used to, you know, holding it with your finger or just kind of opening the spool. They're used to that. So the first thing to do to keep it really, when you're first getting started, is to tighten that tension knob all the way down to where if you got whatever bait's on the end, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to fall. And then slowly loosen it up until it begins to fall slowly. And then usually what I'll do is back it back one more mark. So just so it's falling and then just so it stops. So what that's going to keep you from doing is as you hit that button, it's not going to go anywhere. You don't have to worry about it. It gets you used to this movement. You're just providing muscle memory. That's all you're doing. So get to it just doesn't drop. And usually at that time, since your tension tension knob is so tight, usually you can put your brakes about halfway. And usually halfway, a little halfway, and then you cast. And you kind of keep dropping your brakes down where you can cast without thumbing, and you're not going to backlash, or you have slight backlashes where you just got to pull it out and it's no big deal. So that's it. Do that way and use that for a while until you get used to, you know, holding it and then stopping it when it hits the water and slowly loosen your brakes up. Then once you have that, reverse it. Loosen it up. So what they say is a lot of these reels, you want to loosen your tension rod when you can shake that back and forth like that and then slowly tighten it up until it stops shaking. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you your maximum casting because you've taken all the pressure off of the spool. You're not clamping, you're not vice gripping it down. You're not vicing it down anymore. You're kind of loosened up, so you let it kind of spun freely. But this time you're used to putting your thumb on it. So then you just put your thumb, loosen it, and then turn your brakes all the way up. And then at that point, turn them up and start casting. And you'll notice your casting distance. When you have this tight and this all the way up, your casting distance, which is how far you're casting, is going to go down. So all you got to do is slowly drop. Cast, drop. Drop the brakes down. Boom. Go down to 10, and then go down to 9, and then go down to 8. And you'll see a point where if I cast without thumb, it's going to start to backlash. Then go back that number. Now you have it set loose for maximum casting distance, and your brakes are doing the work. So, and now if you forget to thumb or you don't thumb properly, then it's okay because you've got the setting. Now you got those dudes that want maximum casting and they'll set this really, really loose. They'll turn the brakes all the way down and they're just using the thumb because they're doing it. Most guys, average fishermen, including myself, aren't that talented with it. When we're out there paying attention, daydreaming, you know, looking at the birds or some lady over on the boat in her bikini, any of that stuff, and we're like, ugh. And then you end up just like, oh man, and a bad backlash will ruin the day, especially if you don't have multiple poles. You just got that one pole, you're done. You know what I mean? But it's easy, man. So step one, tighten your tension down, put your brakes about halfway, get used to the casting. You won't back. I do that with my son. He's 10 years old. I put his bait caster, he's got like a Dia 100 series, and he'll throw that out there, no backlashes. He won't cast as far as me, but that's okay. He's getting used to it, and he'll get a love of how to use the baitcaster, how to use his thumb, you know, how to, you know, adjust it, you know, however he wants. So tighten the tension down to it just stops. Okay, loose, you know, tighten all the way down. Put your lure at the end of it, loosen it till it starts to fall, and then back it off till it just stops. You're good, and then set your brakes about halfway and kind of adjust them up and down as you need. However, each lure, each person is going to be different, and then so that you can cast without a thumb, without backlash. Then again, I'm going to repeat it. Step 2, loosen this up to where it's shaking and it just stops. That's maximum casting distance. And then turn your brakes all the way up. And then cast, and each time turn your brakes down one notch at a time until you start to get a little bit of a backlash, and then click it back. And that way, you're thumb free. It's easy, man. And I guarantee you try these settings. Guys that haven't been using your different Baitcasters, even from your more expensive, you know, $200, $300, $400 Baitcasters down to your Walmart Infinity Xfinities, you know what I'm saying, your $60 Baitcasters. It works with all of them. They're all basic mechanics. Some brakes may be a little bit better than others, so you might have to, you know, tighten your brakes. You know, you might have to set yours at 18 instead of some guy sitting on a nicer Baitcaster to set his at 8. But it all works the same, man. So that's going to help you, man. I hope that helps. stay tuned. I'm always trying to go through there, and the things that I learn, I'm trying to share it with others, man, and I hope that helps anybody. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments, and I'm glad to help you out, man. We're all part of the same team, so good looking out. Thanks for watching.